Hello there, Sir from 17 once again, introducing you to my Rage Nightmare Difficulty video walkthrough. And this is Mission 6, Renting a Garage and Racing for Spoils. So what's going to be happening here is we're going to be going over to, I think he's called Marcus, or something like that, and he's going to give us a garage space, which is going to enable us to, once we get a proper vehicle, park it in there and utilise it. So this is the guy. He's called Mick, sorry, not Marcus, and he's another dude who likes to talk. He also likes to swing his wrench when he talks, and he's just a dude, really. He doesn't explain much about him. It doesn't need to. He doesn't play any big role or anything. So I'm going to be rushing away as quickly as I can. And apparently I've got to meet the sheriff, who is up these stairs here. And sheriff's got some interesting stuff in his room. Because on his desk I do believe he's got a bobblehead, but I don't know if I pick it up on this playthrough. But through the room to my left there that leads to the jail cells where people are locked up, there's a there is a translucent cube with some silver teeth in it. And this might have been featured in something before, but the only thing I can think of is Breaking Bad, because if anybody's watched it or is watching it, you will know that there's a character in there called Tuco, who was this psycho drug dealer Mexican dude who ended up getting shot by a police officer, and he had silver teeth just like that, and the police officer gets a memento of killing this dude, which is a glass cube with his teeth in it. And I thought that was fucking awesome if that's exactly what it is, because it's a massive coincidence if it's not, but kind of looks like that thing on Breaking Bad, so pretty badass to see that for some referencing. So this is Rusty, who we have to talk to. And we have to talk to Jackie Wheels, as he says, to get into this place. So there you go. For enough, you have to buy some decent weapons before he's going to give you any jobs. So come over to Toad Slim over here, because before we can continue on and do proper missions, we have to put guns on our machine. And this is dead simple. This, you can either do a time trial or you can do a race. And if you do both, you'll be able to afford the rockets on your vehicle. If you do one, you'll be able to afford the machine guns. I go with the machine guns because I'm trying to do as little driving as I physically can, because there's a whole bunch of driving ahead of me when I do my third playthrough for achievements and whatnot. So I've put it off for as long as I physically could, because I really don't like driving games. I don't understand them. I never have. The only games that I can even stand are like the battle ones with weapons and power-ups, like, you know, Beetle Adventure Racing for the N64 I used to love, and the old Mario Karts and stuff, and Wipeouts. But this is the racing, and the racing is pretty easy. One thing I will say is on Nightmare difficulty, the drivers are more challenging. That's what the game says. That's not me saying it's hard. It's just the cars can take some getting used to, and the main problem I had on my recording run was I was so used to using the Monarch, or which is the most recent car that I had on the end of the game, which handled really well, had lots of boost, that when I got put back in this buggy, it handled like a piece of shit. So you've got 3 laps to do, and scattered around the course are those little, they're kind of like engines, kind of like, you know, petrol canisters or something. And what they're going to do is they will completely refill your boost meter. The only problem is, as soon as you pick them up, they will vanish. So what you want to do is you want to moderate which ones you pick up on which laps, so that you can always be going at a pretty decent clip. Don't worry if you make any mistakes or if you fuck up, you should easily still beat the challengers. There's an awesome one later on where you have to race a dude for his car, where on the very first bend I end up flipping my car and turning it around and I have to reverse, and I still beat him because the dude's a retard. So the driving should be the least of your concerns, because it really isn't that challenging at all. But there's a handful of mandatory races, so just, you know, grit your teeth and bear them. They're not too bad, they're not too long. But once you do this does enable you to use the garage. It does enable you to start doing other races and upgrading your vehicle, if that's what you want to do. I won't be doing any of that because it's just, you know, not the way that I'm going to be doing it. It's not the way I want to do it. But instead of talking about the game, I'm going to talk about a film I watched last night, and it's called Colombiana. And for anybody that doesn't know, it's the most recent film penned by Luc Besson, who is the guy that originally wrote Leon and, you know, From Paris with Love and Taken, and a few other pretty cool, you know, assassin-y based action-y films, generally set around, you know, France or some areas like that. And this one's slightly different, and It focuses around a little girl who was born into the family of a bunch of, I think, the Colombians who were wet workers for this really important drug baron guy who's called Don something cliched. And her parents get killed at the start. She grows up wanting to be a killer so she can get revenge. And the film pretty much follows her killing all these dudes affiliated with this one gangster before she finally gets to him and kills him. And there's a lot of interesting, sequences in it. There's a lot of cool action sequences and interesting little sections and what have you. But as a whole, the film's a bit of a mess. I've got to be honest, it's a bit of a mess. It's got a really interesting and almost offensive visual style, and the reason that I say offensive is because it's edited so quickly. It's like I have never seen a film move this quick. There are sequences that literally there is never one camera lingering for longer than 3 seconds and it cuts to another angle, and it makes it really difficult to watch at times. And this is purely probably a director's choice or an editor's choice, and there's a lot of people that might not even notice it, but to me, from a storytelling perspective, it made it really jarring. The action and stuff, it suited perfectly because it's fast, it's frenetic, but it's doing it when there's absolutely nothing happening, so there's no reason for it to be this fast or to be this, rampant. It just seems to be really obnoxious, and it ruined the film for me, but I still found things to enjoy from it, because there's a lot of cool stuff in it, and there's a couple of poor sections where there's a love interest they throw in, and it's just an excuse to get her photo ID into the FBI database so that she can get found, which is kind of reaching when it comes to like plot holes and things if you look into it, but I'll let that off. The main woman who plays the Colombiana, the main character, was like Catalina or something. She's played by, I believe, I'm trying to think of her name. Yeah, I can't remember her name. Anyhow, she's a really skinny black chick, and she does a pretty decent performance. She kicks some ass. There's a lovely little scene where there's this one dude who's super fat and he's having an orgy in his own private estate in his manor. And for whatever reason, the middle of his estate has a glass floor and a snark. It's not a word. It's not a word, Chris. And a shark pit with 2 sharks in it. And there's this lovely, unnecessary, scene with a bunch of babes in bikinis with massive tits flopping everywhere and being like, oh, why aren't the sharks interested in me? And it's like, because there's no blood in the tank, bitch. Now come over here and suck my balls. And there's all that, and you're thinking to yourself, why did they introduce these sharks? There is no reason other than something's going to happen with these damn sharks. And lo and behold, the big fat guy, for whatever reason, walks out onto the glass floor, picks up this flower which has been conspicuously placed, and she turns up with a silence pistol. She shoots him in both kneecaps, and then shoots him in the chest, and he falls back into the shark tank and gets mauled by 2 sharks. And it's unnecessary, but did I enjoy it? Hell yeah, I enjoyed it. And there's a real cool scene where she sneaks into a prison and she ends up going through all the elevators and the ventilation shafts and stuff, and just doing some crazy stuff to get to this guy and take him out. And it's got some pretty good squib work, it's got some pretty good violence, it's got some pretty good everything, but it ain't a great film by any standards. And this copy that I watched had hard-encoded Korean subtitles. And I don't know too much about Korean as in the language. All I know is it makes for the funniest subtitles I think I've ever seen, because these people were speaking for a good 5 minutes and one kanji propped up to say what they were saying. And it just made me think that if this was English subtitles done in this way, you would literally have a fucking paragraph up on the screen that you'd have to remember for the rest of the dialogue scenes, and it seemed just ridiculous. And I don't know how complicated these characters are, or how in depth they are, but it was literally one little squiggly drawing kanji thing, and the people had been speaking for 5 minutes, so I didn't even realise there was subtitles until that popped up, and it was a little bit distracting, but I could stomach it. And another thing that got to me as well was there's 2 actors in it. There's a black guy that plays an FBI agent who's been in a lot of stuff. You might remember him from Snatch. He was the main, fuck-up criminal in that was Tyrone and everything and robs that post office. And he's an Englishman. And boy, does he suck at putting on an American accent. It's it's just painful to listen to the dude because he's so overly English and everything else that he does to put on this crappy accent is just... It sucks. It sucks real bad. And then there's another guy doing the exact same thing, but he's a little bit better at it. And you might recognise him from Rambo. He played an overly English dude in that, who was always cursing ex-SAS. He's also in House playing... Not House, sorry. He was in 24, and he played a Russian, like, mobster in that. Always putting on you like, put the fake Russian accent on, and drink vodka, and slur my words, and just talk like that through it all. And this dude is English, so when he does his American accent, everything sounds fake. He just slows everything down. It's like, come on, dude. Seriously? And I realise that they probably have to, that's what was asked of them, but there is nothing worse than a bad accent, and especially when you can listen to Hugh Laurie absolutely nail it every episode of House, it gets a bit redundant. But all in all, nowhere near as good as Leon, nowhere near as good as Taken in my opinion, nowhere near as good as many films, but it's definitely entertaining, and, you know, if you're interested in that type of thing, it's worth a watch, but it is by no means a good film. Anyhow, we're back at the Outfitters after we've done that lovely little sidetrack, and I have approximately 2 Dara, so I can't buy anything, so I don't know why I came here. But one of the best things about playing Dead Island is you can you can quote the Shitty Walk guy off of South Park when you're on about money, because I think they phone him when they're trying to go to space so that they can send Wilseyonk, that whale they believe's from another planet, back to the moon. So they're phoning all those different nationalities and trying to get space races, and they end up getting the Chinese guy. And he's like, can you do it for, you know, like $50? And the guy goes, 50 Dara! And every time I pick money up on Dead Island, I always go, whatever the amount is in that stupid dollar fucking accent. It's so funny, just being like, 60 Dara, 50 Dara, 100 Dara. But thanks for watching, guys, and you take care now.